Hi, this is the Ozarks 2022 programs team. My name is Crystal. I just graduated from UT with a degree in biology and I'm from Frisco, Texas.
Hi, I'm Ava. I graduated this year with a degree in business and Plan 2 and I'm from Austin, Texas.
Hi, I'm Grant. I just graduated this semester with a degree in computer science and I'm from Houston, Texas.
Hi, my name is Vinay. I'm an MIS major here at UT Austin and I'm from Austin, Texas.
Hey y'all, my name's Radhika and I graduated with a degree in economics and I'm from Plano, Texas.
Hi, I'm Zeke and I'm a computational engineering major here at UT and I'm from Houston, Texas.
Hi everyone, my name is Thuy. I am studying nursing here at UT and I'm from Vietnam.
Hi, I'm Richa. I graduated with a biochemistry degree and I'm from Plano, Texas.
Texas 4000 for Cancer is an organization at the University of Texas at Austin that aims to spread hope, charity, and knowledge on our 4,000-mile bike ride from Austin, Texas to Anchorage, Alaska. As riders, each of us is tasked with raising a minimum of $4,500, and the money goes towards cancer research funds as well as support services. In the past 19 years, Texas 4000 for Cancer has raised over $12.9 million. Today, we are here to talk about some of the cancer risk factors that exist in our world as well as some prevention tips. However, before we get started, some of our riders are going to talk about why they ride and how that pertains to our 3 pillars of hope, charity, and knowledge. So like I said, my name is Crystal and I ride for the knowledge pillar. Both of my grandfathers passed away from cancer, and one of my grandfathers was a pulmonologist, and so he knew that when he started to feel sick that he should get a checkup, and so that is when he was diagnosed with stage 4 lymphoma. If it had not been for medicine and for knowledge, he would not have lived as long as he did for another 10 years. My grandfather on my father's side was the healthiest person that I knew because he knew the benefits of living a healthy lifestyle. So even at the age of 80, he was still going on hour-long walks and playing hours of ping pong. And I really think that's what led him to live as long as he did. And it is knowledge and medicine and doctors and research and cancer treatments that allowed me to have more years with the people that I love most. And so I ride for knowledge.
My name is Vinay Shah and I ride for knowledge. While it may seem obvious, one of the easiest ways to prevent the development of cancer is through an increased understanding of how the disease can affect just about anyone of any age. I personally ride for my friend James Park, who was diagnosed with cancer in his pituitary gland at the age of 20. It really changed his world and the friends around him and the family around him. He was only 20 at the time, and he was enrolled here at UT in only his second year when he was forced to drop out and move back home. His family had recently moved back to Korea, so he was forced to go overseas where he wasn't with any of his friends or his immediate or direct family because his family wasn't there at the time. He underwent a lot of treatments, and I personally just ride for what he had to go through to get his diagnosis in the first place. He started feeling symptoms of diabetes for a few months, and every time he went to the doctor, they thought it would just be something that would go away after a few months, but it never did. After a few more months, he decided to get it checked up again, and they did an MRI on his brain, and that's when they found out that he had cancer in his pituitary gland. I say this to emphasize the importance of understanding what's going on with your body and make note when something's out of normal. Because of this, if you let someone know as soon as possible, you can see what's wrong and also hopefully find a fix before things are too late. Overall, cancer is a terrible disease that affects millions of people worldwide. The least we can do is equip ourselves with more knowledge, and with that, even the smallest fact, or anything at all could potentially help stop the development of cancer with you, a friend, or a family member.
Hi, I'm Ava and I'm riding for a lot of my family members. There's one quote that really stood out to me by Ocean Vuong, and it goes along the lines of, historically, beauty has demanded replication, and whether that's through a chalice, a poem, a photo, any sort of beauty, you want to transcend it and to have it continuing on past time. And when I read this quote, I realized that's kind of how I feel with stories. And I love getting to hear people's stories about who made them who they are, who they love, who they care about. And for my family, cancer has taken away a lot of those stories, and I know I'm not the only one. So I'm writing to hopefully share a lot of stories about my family and to hear everyone's stories of community members who have been strong, loved ones who have gone through fighting or supporting their other loved ones. And so I'm just writing to hopefully take the beautiful stories that have either been taken away from cancer or by cancer, or who are affected by cancer, and to extend it through time, because I think every person is beautiful and getting to hear their stories is really important. So I ride especially for my mom. Both of her parents passed away from cancer when she was in her 30s. And then I also ride for my grandfather, Pablo, who passed away from cancer about 2 years ago. My other family members who have fought cancer and have fought it really strong. And then I also ride for my cousin Rachel and my Aunt Julie, who fought a different battle for mental health.
Hi, like I said before, my name is Grant, and I ride for my mom, who passed away for cancer almost 10 years ago. One of the things that I've learned as a member of this organization is that everybody who goes through cancer has very different experiences with this disease. And the word which best describes my experience, or at least my mom's experience with cancer, is brief. So because of her previous health conditions, her symptoms with cancer went unnoticed for so long that just a few short weeks after her diagnosis, she passed away. Now, the way that I handled this as a 7th grader was not healthy, and only in retrospect do I see this, but for many years I didn't talk to anybody about my emotions, and this was a mistake. Healing for me really only began after I started having conversations with my friends and family. And what I ride for is to let people know, especially young people who have lost parents, the strength that only comes from being vulnerable and only comes from sharing with your friends and family and the people closest to you what you're going through. We'd like to now take a moment to step back and ask, what is cancer? To answer that question, we first must understand what goes on in the body normally whenever a cell gets old or becomes damaged. Normally, under these circumstances, a cell is programmed to die. However, whenever cancer infiltrates the body, a cell does not die whenever it gets old or damaged. Instead, it grows larger and forms clumps and continues to replicate into large, abnormally sized tumors. If that tumor does not spread to other parts of the body, we say it's benign. Otherwise, we say it's metastasized or is malignant. Now, cancer is a very deadly disease. In fact, it's the 2nd leading cause of death in the United States. With that, I will pass the baton on to Radhika.
Many types of cancer are preventable, and knowing the risk factors and lowering them helps prevent them over time. Now we're going to be talking about tobacco.
As y'all may know, tobacco use is linked to lung cancer. So about 80 to 90% of lung cancer cases are from people who smoke cigarettes or use tobacco regularly. As well as if you smoke cigarettes or use tobacco, you are 15 to 30 times more likely to get lung cancer. Other forms of tobacco use, including oral use or sniffing tobacco, also increases your risk of getting cancer.
UV, or ultraviolet radiation, is the biggest risk factor for melanoma and other types of skin cancer, which is the most prevalent form of cancer here in the United States. Exposure to UV rays comes from direct sunlight or the usage of indoor tanning beds. So ideally, we recommend that you wear sunscreen whenever you go outside when you have exposure to direct sunlight. Ideally, you should be reapplying sunscreen every time you're outside for more than 2 hours. If you think you have had an abnormal amount of exposure to sunlight or an excessive use of indoor tanning beds, we recommend that you go talk to your local dermatologist or your PCP. I'm now going to go through the ABCDEs of moles or skin growths that could be cancerous and when you should get that checked out. So A stands for asymmetry. So if your mole is asymmetrical, we recommend that you go talk to your local dermatologist. B stands for borders. So look for if your mole or your skin growth has uneven borders or jagged borders. C stands for coloring. So look to see if your mole or skin growth is changing colors over time or has uneven coloring. D stands for diameter. So look to see if your mole or your skin growth has a diameter larger than the size of a pea. And then lastly, E stands for evolving. So if your skin growth or mole is changing size, color, or shape over time, we recommend that you go talk to your local dermatologist. Melanoma, early detection of melanoma is key. People who detect it before it spreads to the lymph nodes have a 99% survival rate in the next 5 years. Again, we recommend that you wear sunscreen every time you go outside, and also if you have any of those ABCDEs on your skin growth or your mole, we recommend that you go talk to your local dermatologist.
Getting to maintaining a healthy weight helps reducing risk of developing chronic diseases as well as the risk of reducing developing cancer. Obesity can increase risk of breast, colon, liver, and kidney cancer. So being in tune with your BMI can be a good place to start. Another way to start is by limiting red or processed meat as well as sugary and alcoholic beverages. Also getting to exercises 150 to 300 minutes. So that would be 2 to 5 hours a week of moderate intense activity. So that's when just you can run and like talking. The other one is 75 to 120 minutes of vigorous intense activity. And that means that you cannot really hold a conversation when you're exercising. The last tip is through limiting sedentary behaviors such as sitting at the TV or sitting at a computer for a prolonged period of time. And limiting those behaviors can help reduce your risk of developing cancer as well.
Asbestos is the largest occupational cancer risk factor in the United States. It's most commonly found in rocks, soil, building, and construction material, and is found to increase the risk of lung cancer, mesothelioma, laryngeal cancer, and ovarian cancer. If you work in steel, textiles, shipyards, or you're a firefighter, you're most likely at high risk of these cancers and asbestos exposure. Unfortunately, it is hard to avoid being exposed if you're in an area with high levels of asbestos. Therefore, there are some preventative measures you can take, such as wearing a mask and protective gear. If you ever experience tightness, chest pain, shortness of breath, or dry cough, please go to your physician immediately.
Different industries are associated with various cancer risk factors. Industrial carcinogens are an extremely important topic since many of the industries that we are going to talk about are highly localized along the cancer belt, which, as mentioned, is the region that the Ozarks route travels through. A major risk associated with the coal industry is coal mine dust, which is known to increase the risk of lung cancer. The manufacturing and service industries are known to increase exposure to benzene, fossil fuels, and diesel engine exhaust, which have all been known to increase the risk of cancer. The agriculture, forestry, and fishing industry is known to increase exposure to ultraviolet radiation from the sun, as well as various agricultural chemicals, which are also known to increase the risk of cancer. Again, we understand that it can be difficult to avoid these risk factors, especially if you work at an at-risk occupation. Therefore, we recommend consulting your primary care physician as well as getting regular health checkups and cancer screenings.
Certain viruses can also be a risk factor for developing cancer. HPV, or the human papillomavirus, is a sexually transmitted disease that can increase the risk of developing cervical, throat, and anal cancers. In fact, the majority of cervical cancer cases in women and head and neck cancer cases in men are caused by HPV. HPV is fairly common, infecting about every 1 in 3 people. Luckily, there are 2 methods that everyone can take in order to prevent the development of HPV and later cancer as a result. First, it's important to practice safe sex and always use protection. Next, it's important to get vaccinated against the virus. The HPV vaccine is available at your primary care provider as well as local clinics, and it's covered by both private insurance as well as Medicaid. The best ages to get the HPV vaccine are 11 and 12.
There's a strong consensus that excessive consumption of alcohol over time can lead to cancer. In 2009, 3.5% of cancer deaths in the US were related to alcohol consumption. Alcohol is broken down or metabolized into a product called acetaldehyde, which is a human carcinogen which is linked to breaking down human DNA, proteins, and fats in the body. It's important to drink safely and responsibly over time to ensure that we reduce the excessive consumption of alcohol in a person's lifetime. Now we're going to shift the conversation from risk factors over to cancer care disparities with Ava.
Our environment and income are not the only factors that contribute to cancer outcomes. In the United States, if you're a member of a racial minority group, then you're more likely to have cases of cancer that are diagnosed later on in life because you are more likely to be low income and thus medically underserved. If you're medically underserved, that means that you have less effective and efficient medical treatment available to you. In the United States, members of racial minority groups have less medical care access than white individuals do. In addition, cancer disparities arise due to the lack of participation in clinical trials by people who are not white males. So clinical trials have lower participations in people who belong to racial and ethnic minority groups, which raises the possibility that the treatment or the medicine won't be fully applicable to those groups of individuals, nor as effective. This also leads to a difference in medications developed for both women and ethnic minorities because most medications are developed for white men. So not only is there a greater incidence of cancer in racial and ethnic minority groups and marginalized communities, but there's also a struggle to access treatment and preventative measures such as getting regular screenings. It's important to recognize these disparities in our cancer treatment because we need to make ourselves better and our nations better by addressing them.
So hi, my name is Richa, and I ride for all three pillars: hope, knowledge, and charity, but especially for hope. A few summers ago, I served as a camp counselor for a nonprofit called Camp Kesem. Through this, I got to interact with a lot of children whose parents were affected by cancer, and I truly understood the isolating feeling they experienced by watching their parents suffer from such a deadly and traumatic disease. A lot of them, as 10 to 11-year-olds, shared with me how they felt lonely at school because none of the other children understood what they were going through, but camp was the reason why they were able to be more confident and more expressive with themselves. And in fact, the older children provided them with a lot of hope because they knew that those kids, even though they had parents affected by cancer, they grew up to be great people and great children, and it just brought them a lot of joy. And so I truly understood the power of hope in these campers, and I've seen also the power of hope in my team and through the communities we've already interacted with. And so this summer I truly ride for hope, and I really look forward to the communities we meet.
I ride for all of you who are watching this video, as we would have loved to be able to interact with y'all. I also ride for some family members of mine who have had cancer and are now in the recovery process. I also ride for research and prevention strategies that public health is developing right now to prevent cancer and have better outcomes for patients in the future. And lastly, I ride for communities who have been disproportionately affected by cancer, as well as people who have passed away and their lived families who are still feeling the impact to this day.
Because we ride for hope, we think it's important to talk about how we can treat cancer and therefore take control of our own health. Now, I know that some risk factors that we've talked about can be unavoidable at times, but it's best if we can try our best to minimize the risk factors and the exposure that we have to them. We want to stress the importance of being proactive with your health, so going to the doctor's office in a timely manner. So here's some helpful benchmarks. Between the ages of 40 and 74 for women, it's recommended that you get a breast cancer screening every other year, especially if you have a family history of having breast cancer. If you're a male above the age of 45, you should begin talking to your doctor about getting prostate exams. And if you're a heavy smoker or you work in the coal or mining industry that Zeke spoke about, we recommend that you should talk to your doctor about getting a CT scan after the age of 50, especially if you experience frequent chest pain.
We hope that you found this video helpful in terms of how cancer operates and what you can do as an individual to reduce your risk of developing cancer. Ultimately, we hope to spread knowledge on different risk factors, screening services, and what treatment options might be available for you. We at Texas 4000 really enjoy sharing what we know to you all and embark on this journey. None of what we do here really matters without your support. And so we will be continuing to ride for each and every one of you. If you would like to learn more about what we do and want to donate, our website is texas4000.org. Every contribution matters. Thank you so much.